Why do you believe you are the best person to lead the World Trade Organization at this time and in this geopolitical context?
Well, thank you. That's a loaded question, but let me begin by saying that the WTO is as important as it's ever been, because trade is very important, as important as it has ever been for the 21st century. And the WTO has the rules that underpins the multilateral trading system. But the WTO is facing a lot of challenges. I'll just mention two or three because they are related to the reason why I think I'm the best candidate. The WTO's dispute settlement system is paralyzed at the moment. And, you know, for a rule-making organization, this undermines the credibility if the very place where the rules can be monitored and people can bring complaints does not work. The WTO has not completed multilateral negotiations for quite some time, but their ongoing fisheries subsidies negotiations, which if brought to a conclusion, could really be a win for the WTO. We are in the midst of COVID-19 at the moment, and the WTO has some rules that could really make trade in medicines, vaccines, and pharmaceuticals much easier, more accessible. You remember many countries have put export restrictions on medical supplies and equipment. And there are some rules about members of the WTO having to notify others, making this export restriction temporary, transparent, and proportionate. Well, if we apply those rules, then, you know, it could help us to open up the trade in medical supplies and equipment. The WTO is all about trade. And trade affects every single one of us, even down in the rural areas, in the village. We produce things, we sell them to other people. Some of these things are sold on in bulk to people elsewhere, in other countries or even within the same country. So it's all about trade. And trade is one of the means by which we improve our living standards, our economics. So to the ordinary woman and man in the street, if you're talking about trading in goods that you produce or buying other goods, that's what the WTO rules underpin, and that's why it matters to the person on the street that this should work. And I just want to say that the WTO's rules also need to be upgraded to digital economy, the green economy, and it needs new rules to underpin micro, medium, and small enterprises and women in trade. That, again, is something that matters very much to the ordinary person, because in our countries in Africa, there's so many micro, medium, and small enterprises. Many of them are owned by women. And if we can get them to produce more, trade more, and be part of the regional and local supply chains, people's living standards will improve. That's why the WTO matters.